Hello and welcome to episode 47 of the HamCorp training manual. In this episode, I will describe my plan for the ore processing setup, and I will also implement most of it. Feel free to skip the plan if it feels too much like school. Alright, in this episode, I would like to set up legitimate ore processing, and I've thought a little bit about how to do this, and I've made a flowchart. Now this isn't completely exhaustive, there is definitely room to modify things here. But the general process is that we start with an ore, and all ores, except for oil sands ore, have to just be sent straight to a macerator. Oil sands ore we're going to deal with separately, if I even deal with it at all, because it's a little useless. But all the ores will be sent to the macerator, and they will all be turned into crushed ore. I think all of them. I don't know if there are exceptions. There might be. And under each of these steps, you can see a filter, I guess. This is what goes into the OreDictionary cards, which we'll come to in a second. But this is basically a filter that filters based on the OreDictionary of an item. So for example, back in the ores, we have ore star, which means any OreDictionary filter that starts with ORE and then continues on to have any number of characters. That's what the star is. It's a wildcard. And then an and, so this is like a logical and, so both parts of this have to be true. The exclamation is a not. And then we have star oil sands. That means anything that ends with oil sands will not be allowed. So reading this whole thing as one filter, this is essentially anything that starts with ore and anything that is not oil sands. And there meaning both of these things have to be true. These ores are sent to a variety of different places based on which ore. So we're going to use filters on storage buses. I'll come to the specifics of how we're setting this up in the future. But basically, we're going to filter each individual ore. This is no longer with an OreDictionary filter. To filter which ore is allowed to go into which machine. Sending it to the macerator will, of course, create impure dust. The impure dust is just immediately centrifuged because I don't believe there's any case where I need to do anything special with impure dust. I mean, that could be not true, but I couldn't find anything. Those will be centrifuged, and then that gives us an output. As for the other three routes, ore washing, chemical bath with sodium persulfate, and chemical bath with mercury, all of those will create purified ore. So all purified ores that are not bauxite, not sphalerite, and not galena are sent to the next three machines. And the rest of the purified ores will be sent to either the sifter, the thermal centrifuge, or the macerator. And again, we're going to use regular filters for these instead of OreDictionary filters. The sifter, of course, will just make gems, and that's our output. Thermal centrifuge will make centrifuged ore. That we're going to send back to the macerator, and that is, again, an output. And finally, the purified dust will be sent to the centrifuge, except for ruby, green sapphire, and sapphire, because we have the ruby juice and sapphire juices for that. And then that brings us to the output. From the output, there is a little more to do. Some gems are kind of useless, like certain chipped gems or flawed gems. There's no use for them except to turn them into dust, for example, salt. But you get more dust from sending it through the sifter instead of just processing it normally. So those will be sent to a macerator to be crushed. Other dusts, for example, sodalite and lazurite, will have to be electrolyzed. And then finally, another set of dusts will need to be centrifuged. And those will be sent back into the output. So that's going to be kind of a separate system, but everything above will be part of its own subnet. Now this second ore processing subnet, or I guess the main ore processing subnet, will not have storage. The storage will be the input buses of these machines. I haven't figured out the specifics yet, but I am going to make one of each of these machines. Like I'm not going to use the same machine for different steps, even if it's possible, like the macerator. I'm just going to make as many machines as I have listed on this diagram. I will probably also need to extend the building here. I'll probably just go that way. They're all going to be EV machines, and they're all going to have HV input hatches, HV input buses, and HV output buses. I'm also going to have to make a bunch of OreDictionary cards. I mean, it is also possible that there are other types of outputs that are not listed in the diagram, like, I don't know, maybe blaze powder or something. Like, I'm not sure what to do with that, and I haven't thought about how to set up an overflow for this. So yeah, that could be a problem. But we'll see. We'll solve it when it happens. But for now, I have a lot of crafting to do. It has been a long time, but we have everything we need, except for the industrial electrolyzer, because that needs an IV electrolyzer to make. So it's time to make our first IV machine hulls. They're also used in making the OreDictionary filter cards, because these IV type filters go into them. Oh, I'm now realizing we actually don't have any tungsten ingots, only tungsten steel. I'm not sure how I want to handle this, because these are quite slow to craft, so I would like to put these on passive as well. And actually, I don't even have any tungsten dust. Okay, I think for now I'm just going to manually make a bunch of tungsten ingots. Like, I'll just craft the dust myself and then blast it. Oh, actually, this is probably an even better recipe. 2 tungsten ingots from 8 tungsten trioxide and 3 carbon dust. So I'm gonna have to do some splitting of the tungsten trioxide. That means we're going to redo the whole tungsten seal setup, which is fine because it's kind of due for a redo anyway because we're about to switch this whole ore processing setup up. But for now, I'm just gonna get a stack of tungsten by hand, or maybe half a stack of tungsten, and then if I can make these OreDictionary filter cards, that would make everything a lot easier. Okay, here we go. Here is the very first IV machine hull. We are officially in IV. That means we have access to a whole new set of multi-block machines. But the most relevant thing for us right now is the industrial electrolyzer, because that's going to be used as part of our ore processing. But some other highlights include the wire factory, which is a wire mill, the extruder, industrial extrusion machine, and this quest that's locked, which is basically the mixer multi-block. I still haven't made this thing either, the industrial material press. I need to make 2, one as a bending machine and one as a forming press, but I guess that's something we can do after the ore processing. Large processing factories, which are going to be removed, so I'm not going to make this. This was basically 9 different machines in one, which is kind of boring, but they're going to replace it with a different machine for each of the 9. And I guess while I'm doing this, I may as well do the whole "you're gonna hate this" quest. Okay, making the electrolyzer is a little more investment than I'm prepared for right now, because it needs HSSG coils, which we don't have. So I guess that can just wait for now, and I'm gonna do the rest of the ore processing, and then we'll come back to that. These OreDictionary filter cards are going to be the backbone of this whole thing. We're also going to need some export buses, probably interfaces. Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably just going to have to make things as I go. But all right, it is time to rip all of this down. How do I get rid of this? I guess I just have to place stuff in it to get rid of it? That's annoying. This is also an opportunity to redo the wiring, because these are all multi-blocks, so we don't want them to run out of power, or else we're going to be voiding items. And here at HamCorp, we have a strict policy of no voided items. Every item voided is an employee fired. Now I'm also going to expand the ore processing facility. Since this is going to be a semi-permanent setup, I'm also going to spend time decorating the multi-blocks. Like, I'm gonna have them look good, whatever that means. Actually, let's plan this out first. Let's plan out where everything is going to go, and then I'll try to figure out some way to make everything look nice as well. And then we'll actually place the machines. So first, we're going to need some kind of space to house the applied energistic stuff. This wall right here seems to be a pretty good spot. And then I'm gonna have some kind of box to contain all of this so it looks nice. And then it could also be like a control panel. The applied energistics connections can go out this way. I have this battery buffer here so the power can go out this way. And then the machines can go, I guess, in the middle. So the first thing we need is a macerator. This of course has a 3x3 footprint. So this is going to be the macerator. I'm going to leave some space between these machines for cabling and piping and whatever. But the next 4 steps are another macerator and 3 ore washers. Now the ore washers are kind of big. They're 5x7 footprints, but they can share blocks. I guess so can the macerators. And if I was trying to be efficient, I would share blocks with this one, but I think I value the being able to distinguish what's going on easily much more. So the next macerator is going to go... Actually, let me place the ore washers first. So this is going to be the wall. This is the wall. This is the wall. One of them is just a genuine washer, and then 2 of them are going to be chemical baths. And then the second macerator can go here. Next up, we have a centrifuge, a sifter, a thermal centrifuge, and a macerator. So let's put down the sifter first, I guess. We needed a centrifuge, macerator, thermal refinery. All right. After this, we need 1 more centrifuge and 1 more macerator. I'm actually going to swap these around for aesthetics. So now the centrifuges are in line, and then the macerators are all in line, except for this one, I guess. But this is the main, the big boy. So, and now we need to turn these from ideas into machines. Alright, all done. So I made a few decisions here that I would like to explain. So first of all of the energy hatches face the energy side, and all of the input and output buses face the applied energetics side. That's true for all of these machines except for these washing plants because of how they're sharing blocks, so it's a little not quite like that, but the front face is all inputs and outputs, and the back face is all the energy. Also, I wanted to have the full face of the industrial centrifuge, so I had to kind of cram things in over here. But this is fine because all of these energy hatches are actually going to face down like this for all of these machines, because I want to hide the cables in the floor. And then for these washing plants, I just have to set the mode. This one is water, so it's an ore washer mode. This one is going to be either mercury or sodium persulfate, so chemical bath, and same with this one. Cool, this is all fine and nice, but it's kind of ugly. So we need to do some decoration. So I'm going to play around a little bit with each of these machines. I don't have a plan in mind for what I want to do here. So I'm just going to fuck around and find out. Alright, check this out. I really like this actually. So here's the maceration stack. I decided to make all of them look like this. Here are the ore washers / chemical baths, and I've used tinted glass and color-coded them. Water on the left, sodium persulfate in the middle, and mercury on the right. Here we have the sifter. Here we have the thermal refinery. And here we have the 2 centrifuges. I did have to move some stuff around because now, as you can see, parts of this are no longer as accessible. So I moved these output buses to the middle. I moved the centrifuge's maintenance hatch and input and output to the back. And I also wired everything up in the floor. So yeah, I like this a lot, actually. I also set up a subnet for the ore processing. This one has a P2P tunnel that brings us the main net down here. And the main net connects using this export bus to an ME interface on the subnet. This export bus has an OreDictionary filter card and 3 acceleration cards. When you add the OreDictionary filter card, you get this button on the left, which you can click, and this is where you type in your filter. So I want to bring all ores here, but I don't want to bring oil sands. Now I also want to bring impure and purified dusts, and I also want to bring all the crushed ores. But I'm not going to add those now because I have like almost 7,000 crushed monazite, and I don't have the monazite line done, so it's just going to clog this interface and nothing else is going to come into the system. So I'm just going to leave it like this for now, just ore and not oil sands. This will start filling up with ore. There's currently no ore in the main net, that's why there's nothing here. But let me throw some in. So I have some aluminium ore here. I'm just going to dump this all into the mainnet. And now this export bus will start exporting the aluminium ore into this interface. There is no storage in this ore processing subnet, so it's just going to sit in this interface waiting to find a place where it's allowed to go. And we want to send it to this macerator. To do that, I'm going to put down this storage bus, and I'm going to add an OreDictionary filter card here as well. And I'm going to give this the same filter. So any ores that are not oil sands will be sent to this macerator. Now once this connects, we should start seeing aluminium ore in here. There we go. And this will start processing, and it's going to be extremely loud. So I'm just gonna turn this down. So this is going to process. We're going to get a bunch of different stuff. Most importantly, the crushed ore. Again, I'm just following my flowchart on the other screen. Now I'm going to set up another interface here, and I'm going to use a bunch of item conduits. There's probably a better solution, but I can't think of it at the moment. But these item conduits are going to send everything into this interface, and everything is just going to sit in this interface, waiting to find another place where it's allowed to go. And where is the crushed aluminium supposed to go? Now this doesn't go to one of the chem vats. This goes to the ore washing plant, so we can send that here. Here we're going to have another storage bus on the input. This time we're going to use capacity cards to unlock more of these slots as they're needed. But instead of using an ore dict here, I'm going to specify whether or not each ore is supposed to go here. So crushed aluminium is supposed to go to this ore washer. So I'm going to allow it here, and then we connect this up like so. Now the crushed aluminium is allowed here, so it's going to get sent here. There it is. Now we're going to get more dust and more crushed purified ore. Crushed purified aluminium can take a bunch of different paths. And we're going to send it to the next macerator. And then that we're going to send to the centrifuge. So that's going to be this macerator. So I've kind of arranged these machines in layers. So this is the first step, this is the second step, this is the third step, and this is the final step. So we just did the ore washer, which is step 2, and we put it in the macerator of step 3, which is here. Cool. This will start getting stored in here. Wait, I forgot to put the I forgot to put in an interface. Whoops. And now this should start filling up with purified aluminium. There we go. Now this is going to crush, and we're going to get purified piles, so pure dust, and more bauxite dust. The pure dust we send to the centrifuge, and I believe all pure dusts, except for the few that I've thought about, go in here. So here we're actually going to use another OreDictionary card instead of manually filtering. So in this last centrifuge on the input bus, I'm going to put in the storage bus, add my OreDict filter, and this is going to be all dust pure. That's not ruby, and not sapphire or green sapphire. Writing it like this actually captures both of those because it's just star sapphire. It could be dust pure sapphire, or it could be dust pure green sapphire. This catches both of them. So those we don't want sent here, but I believe every other purified dust we do want to send over here. And of course, don't forget to add your interface to the output of the last machine. I do need some more item conduits though. It sends all of this aluminium dust into this interface. Again, seeking a place for it to store. And now when I hook up this storage bus, it is going to store all of the purified dusts in here. Now this should store the dust. There we go. And now this makes aluminium dust and bauxite dust. So it tries to put it back into our system. It has nowhere to go. And in fact, all of the previous steps, I believe, have now clogged up due to all of these dusts. Now these we don't want to store in the ore processing network. I am just going to send it back to the mainnet, I think. And then the dust that I'm going to process further, I'm just going to re-export into this subnet. But I guess that's a problem for later, because I don't even have the electrolyzer yet, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to set up a storage bus connection that goes from the subnet, and I'm going to use my last OreDict card over here. I probably am going to need more, but I'm going to set this storage bus to only store dusts. So dust star, but we don't want it to store the purified and impure dusts. So we don't want, and not dust pure, and not dust impure. So any dust that is not a pure dust, not an impure dust, but is still, a dust, is going to be stored in our mainnet. So I'm just going to get a bunch of my ores. I probably am going to just go on a big mining spree around the area, just mine a bunch of these veins, just so I have the ores and I can teach this system what ores are supposed to go where. And anytime we get a new ore, we'll have to teach it a little bit more, but that's fine, just the first time. I didn't realize this before, but actually the ore washing plant, even if it's in chemical bath mode, still needs a water supply. So it still needs a reservoir hatch. So I'm just going to make 2 and then put them over here. And now I am very happy. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. If you skip the plan, HamCorp will skip paying your salary this month. In the next episode, we will redo and upgrade the existing special ore processing setups. But before that, we will invest in some Fortune 3 books and open a bunch of enchanted IV loot bags. See you next time.